Hey everybody, Xeno back here for some more Mega Man 1. Last time we cleared a few more stages, and this time we're going to be wrapping up the Robot Master stages with a Guts Man. Let's get into it because there's only one choice left. This series is going to be segmented in a slightly weird way now that I realize it, because this game only has 10 stages, and trying to make 2 videos would be probably too long. 3 is wonky. This is probably going to end up being a 4-parter, but that's fine if they're not of equal length. Anyways, regarding Gutsman stage, this is the only stage in the game that has the series classic Mets, and they actually only appear right at the beginning here, which I thought was actually kind of interesting. For an enemy that shows up in pretty small capacity to become very iconic like this. But yeah, that's it. These are the only Mets in the entire game, as far as I remember, which I'm fairly sure I'm remembering correctly. Because otherwise I feel like I'd be able to point out other ones. But yeah, they act in typical Met fashion. Little spread shot, open up. It's good stuff. Now this stage is infamous for a couple of different reasons. So it starts off with the biggest difficulty spike in a singular stage probably, with these platforms that are right at the beginning of the stage and then don't return at all for the rest of the game, except one small section in the last Wily stage. But to put the most difficult segment of the stage at the beginning, especially for a stage this short, is and definitely a decision of all time. These platforms have the same issue as footholders and magnet beam, where if you fall off them, you fall at Mach speed because the game thinks you're descending. If you look down there, the little space right below me here is where the platform drops off, and you'll fall to your death if you don't jump correctly. And the timing for this is honestly pretty strict. Like, for a person to select this as the first stage and to immediately come up with this obstacle, especially if you don't have the magnet beam, which you can use to cheese it, it's very punishing. Like, shockingly very punishing here. And I always found this to be kind of an unwise choice, especially because you're not really introduced to this in a safe environment. It's just kind of, if you don't figure out that this drops you off, you're just dead. So it's kind of rough. But let me show you what this segment is supposed to look like, provided I don't botch it myself. You want to jump right when the green edge is about to go over the hole. And there you go. It's tougher than it looks, especially if you haven't pulled it off before. And from there, as I mentioned, the stage, oddly enough, gets easier in my opinion. Just a generic section with bladers here. Big health pickup, which you can infinitely respawn, although I don't know how you would have taken that much damage in this stage, unless you really got beat up by the Mets or those bladers. Then there's the Picket Men, which also only appear in this segment, but these enemies are great. I like them. They're thematically very appropriate for this stage. They're very weak to Firestorm, so make use of it. But yeah, this segment is fun. Otherwise, I believe they take 5 shots or so. Let's see. Actually, more than that. Maybe 8. I should also show off the Bombman's weapon, which is Gutsman's weakness, but this is probably the worst weapon in the game. Hyper Bomb. Does not explode on contact with anything, so if there were an enemy there, it would just go right through it, and it takes forever to explode, so definitely not one of the stronger weapons in the game. Actually, to be honest, Gutsman's weapon gives it some decent competition as far as being the worst goes, just because you can't use it half the time, but I'll explain that as well. I almost fell victim to the Mega Man 1 spike issue there. If I had fallen down, I would have died. This section is just kind of whatever. You can get a life here if you platform correctly, but this is just kind of generic and very nothing screens, and also a very unpleasant and nasty trick if you fall down the right here, so not really ideal decision in my opinion. And that's really the stage. So genuinely very short, and the hardest part is right at the beginning, which kind of blows in my opinion. You can dispatch these big eyes once you have Iceman and Electman's weapon pretty easily by just using Ice Slasher and then Thunder Beaming them. That's a good way to deal with them once you have the tools. So yeah, short stage, not particularly a highlight in my opinion. I like the enemies, but the overall design is initially player hostile and then just kind of gets boring and generic. At least the developers communicated that this is like a quarry kind of themed area, so they did a good job with the theming, I think. Better than some of the other stages. Gimmicks used are decently representative of what's going on. So Gutsman, he'll shake the ground whenever he stomps, as you can see. He either chooses to jump towards you or away from you, and I believe that is random, although can't be sure. And he'll throw rocks using his super arm. Just like that. So he's weak to Hyper Bomb, as I mentioned, which does you no favors. So the best thing to do, if you can manage it... see, I can't. This weapon is so trash, it's hard to kill him with. Unless he gets stuck in a corner, which it looks like he might. And let's see if we can pull off the select glitch. There we go. That worked. Another pretty simple pattern. Decent enough for a game of this era again, but not particularly engaging. It is kind of fun to make sure that you don't get hurt by his earthquake when he jumps. That part is pretty cool. So once all 6 Robot Masters are defeated, Dr. Wily's stage opens up. What's interesting about this menu is I'm only pressing the right key right now, and it cycles this way. Like, I always found that to be peculiar. Like, after Cutman, it cycles to Dr. Wily. Pushing up and down does nothing on this screen, which is kind of odd to me. But either way, it's time to begin the Dr. Wily stages. We'll get to the bottom of this. You can see his never again used red saucer design in this game, which was immediately retired, and then it thereby became blue in every subsequent game. The design has stayed pretty consistent since, but in this game you get red. So, this game's Wily Castle is actually pretty good. You might remember in my Mega Man 2 review, for those that watched it, that I talked about the fortress being a general decline in quality, honestly, from Mega Man 1's, which was generally pretty atmospheric and at least kind of consistent, because the first stage is great, and then they really drop the ball with the second stage just kind of being whatever, and like a bunch of jet rooms and presses, and then the third stage might as well not exist, the sewer stage. I feel like every stage here makes a decently strong impression. Wily Stage 3 is a bit short, admittedly. That might be the one that stands out just because of the short length. But otherwise, you have a pretty strong showing. I like the Samar music in this stage, and the little outside area before you get into the meat of the fortress. Oh, nice. I was just able to walk under that. Very nice. Ice Slasher is great. It's everything Spark Shock wishes it was, which is crazy because that was 2 games after. So, speaking of the potentially worst weapon, so Hyper Bomb is near useless because it's hard to hit anything with, just because it takes forever to explode. Now, Super Arm is a different kind of borderline useless because the only times you can use it in this game are when you encounter these block tiles. And that's all you get. You're only able to use this weapon when these blocks are here, and they're in, like, less than 10 rooms in the entire game, so have fun with that. This stage does have a few rooms that make decent use of it, admittedly, but it's still far too shallow of a use case. I wish they'd just let you throw rocks at will like Gutsman can. That would make it an actual interesting weapon to use, but unfortunately we are not that lucky. This room has enemies that will jump you immediately. Yeah, I'm probably gonna die. Okay. Surprised I didn't. Yeah, depending on the flea RNG, you can just get hit repeatedly here. I'm trying to time it so that I hit the enemy with my weapon, but it's not playing out in my favor right now. Thunder Beam is a better choice, yeah. There you go. So yeah, not really the most intelligently built screen there, but that's fine. What makes Super Arm a little less useful, funnily enough, is that, as you can see, Thunder Beam can also get rid of these blocks, so if you never wanted to use it in the entire game, you could really get away with it. It's just utterly outclassed, and that's kind of a shame, because I think it's a really fun concept. and feels pretty good to use when you're able to use it, but you just don't get that many chances to, which kind of sucks. I think this room is the last room in this stage that has these blocks, and there's only one other room for the rest of the game, as far as I remember, that has the blocks. So kind of a shame. I think this is another screen where I could have grabbed the ladder from the top, but I didn't think about it in time. And anyways, you just gotta avoid the killer bullet. I don't know if it's possible to avoid taking damage on this screen. I think it tends to happen, like, no matter what, almost. And then, yeah, honestly, I would use Magnet Beam to just skip that screen with the foot holders, because who really wants to deal with foot holders? Not me, that's for sure. You can do a little bit of weapon refilling in this room because the pickups respawn infinitely, as discussed prior. So I'm gonna farm a little bit. Just get a little bit of energy back. I won't need Super Arm that much. Just want to make sure I have enough Thunder Beam. Now, this screen pulls a really dirty trick because I mentioned that the Magnet Beam it seems like an optional item. You pass by it in Electments level, and if you don't have the tools to get it, then you might forget about it and be like, oh, okay, that was odd, like that pickup thing. And the game never does a check to make you get it. So if you reach this point without having grabbed it, you are officially soft locked. And I think that's a really bad game design decision. That kind of goes without saying. Like, I think that's pretty obviously a bad idea to give your player the chance to completely screw themselves over just for no reason. But yeah, make sure you pick up the Magnet Beam. This is the only screen in the entire game that it's mandatory for. And I think that actually makes it even more stupid that it's required, because this just didn't need to be like this. But it is useful in other situations, so it's useful to pick up just regardless. So, you know, it's all good around. This is another reused screen, I believe, and I guess it helps the game transfer over to this screen, which has one of the most infamous Mega Man bosses of all time, the Yellow Devil. This guy comes out in a very particular pattern, but if you're not prepared, you're gonna get wailed on, most likely. It moves incredibly fast this game, and this is the boss where the pause trick is most often used for, because you can do this. I might be able to one-cycle this. Wait. Oh. Well, I was planning on showing off more of the pattern, but I guess I'm just way too good at using the pause glitch, so sorry guys. But to give some posthumous commentary on Yellow Devil, essentially what it does is it'll go back and forth on both sides of the screen in the same way that it spawned. The pattern is the same every time, so you just need to remember which blobs to jump over and which to let go over your head. But it's completely consistent. Just the speed at which it comes out can take you off guard, especially if you don't time your jumps properly. It'll also appear at varying heights, the eye will, and it'll shoot at you, giving you a pretty limited opportunity to use Thunder Beam against it, but the eye is the weak point, as you could tell. Now, Wily Stage 2. I suppose I should actually save the rest of the game for the next recording. I'm going to break here. Thank you all for watching. This has been Xeno. We will finish this next time. Thank you for watching. Signing off. Bye-bye.